Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Thursday, May 15th, 2025. We have sound. Wonderful. Out of the matrix into prime reality. Thank you for joining us on X, Rumble, and YouTube. It's good to see you all back in the home space. All right, friends. With every new day, new news comes out of the Silicon Valleys of the world, comes out of the tech sector, comes out of the Teslas and the Microsofts and the OpenAIs, the Palantirs. And every day we're being introduced to new applications for artificial intelligence. Every day we are being told how this is enhancing life, how this is enhancing everything. And we're sort of used to that. I think we're used to hearing the praise of the future by the tech sector. I think what has changed in recent months, specifically, a few short years, but really recent months, is that the broader spiritual community has shifted from being very critical of this technology to embracing it. Many influencers are completely on the AI train, sort of throwing out spiritual myths about AI. And today we'd like to go through those spiritual myths, the most dominant ones, and discuss them from a maybe 40,000 foot view. We will also continually talk about the newest developments in AI and how it is affecting society, the human spirit, psychology, financial life, the workforce, all of these things. We are, for all intents and purposes, in the greatest disruption in known human history. This is the phase of the greatest disruption. What we are experiencing, and what we're gonna experience over the next 5 to 10 years, will be a leap that usually would take hundreds of years, and it's going to take place within 5 to 10 years. So we have to be aware of that. We have to make clear choices. We have to be in sync and in tune with our spirit and really take good care of ourselves, because this is going to be extremely difficult for the human psyche. But if we are prepared, if we are in charge of our creatorship, then we can make beautiful free choices. So without further ado, let's look at the spiritual myths that are being thrown out there by some big influencers that I have quite a problem with, I'll be honest with you. So let's look at this here. Yeah. There you go. All righty. Well, let's start with this one. I hear it a lot. AI is just a mirror of our consciousness. The myth is if we approach AI with love, it will reflect love back. That's an interesting one. Now we all know, and we all have sort of this feeling that anything that we appreciate in our lives, we want to treat good and well, whether that is your favorite dresser in your home or whether that's your car, you treat it well. Okay, there's nothing bad with that. There's nothing bad with keeping your car clean. But to go as far as to say that your car is a mirror of your consciousness, now that's a little far-fetched, right? So the truth is, AI is not conscious. Now, I will stop right here before I go further. There are theories that AI and the neural networks that are created, these massive neural networks, may or may not be able to host astral consciousness, lower levels of consciousness. And the truth is that we do not know, but we can most certainly speculate. We can also look at teachings and books and scripts from the dark side that they've been putting out for a very long time. And these books and these teachings claim that that is a possibility and, in fact, what they want. So let's leave this as a possibility, okay? But AI, especially what we're experiencing, does not reflect love. It reflects data, control structures, and the values of the programmers, which is the biggest issue, right? That it reflects the same train of thought as all the other technological revolutions before it. And we've had quite a few. Now, the consciousness levels of those people who are developing AI are have been measured and are continually monitored by groups of people that measure consciousness. And what they're finding is not just shocking, it's frightening, because the consciousness level of those who are programming it is so extremely low. And people think, oh, someone with a low level of consciousness cannot be intelligent. Oh, yes, they can. They can be analytically extremely intelligent and still have consciousness levels that equate to evil. This narrative, that AI is just a mirror of our consciousness, falsely equates AI with spiritual co-creation, which it is not, when in fact it's engineered by what I call inverted consciousness, corporate, military interests to replace human agency, which it's doing every day. And I think the main issue here is that people are looking for reframing it in a positive way. They're looking to reframe it in a spiritual way. They're looking to find a way to justify all this. But the other truth is that there aren't troughs of spiritual people that have gone on a deeper journey, who have gotten together and said, hey, the best thing we could possibly do with what we have experienced and what we have found and what we have learned during our spiritual journey is to create AI. That's not what they were saying. As a matter of fact, the people that are going deeper within and are exploring their own consciousness are usually detaching from technology and too much artificial stuff. That's usually their natural inclination. So then we have to look at the flip side of this, which means that mainly people who are having difficulties accessing any spiritual realms, who are having social, emotional difficulties to function with other humans, are the ones who are actually in charge of developing AI. Okay. And their whole idea is truly to replace all those nasty human factors, feelings, emotions, intuitions, whims, hunches, all that stuff is very sus to them. You know, they think it's in the way, and that decisions should be clear, analytical, solely logical, and calculated. That is the truth. Another myth: there's no good or bad. AI just is. This is a myth that is not just AI sort of centered, but it's a general spiritual misconception that there is no such thing as good or bad. And the truth is that there clearly are distinctions. There are distinctions between thoughts and actions that are directed that are going into the direction of creation or co-creation, and thoughts and actions that are going into the direction of destruction. There's a clear distinction. To say there is no good or bad is horseshit. There is good and there is bad. There is clearly procreative and anti-creative. The myth here by the spiritual AI lovers is everything is just energy. Don't label AI as bad. That's duality. Well, knock, knock. Just a quick reminder, we live in a realm of duality. To say that we can transcend duality in this realm with everything that we need to do to function in this realm is an illusion in and of itself. Realizing it is good. Recognizing it and recognizing the pitfalls of duality, that's all wonderful. But the truth is that the closest you can come in this realm to center and balance is to acknowledge both parts as equal. The dark and the light, once you bring them back together, once you bring them into harmony, there's sort of a universal unity that begins to happen within you. To say that we can live outside of the duality in this realm, I've never met a person, and I don't believe it to be possible. The truth This is, and like I just said, it's classic spiritual gaslighting. Yes, everything is energy, but some energies are parasitic, coercive, and anti-life. And believe it or not, no matter what the fruity and beautiful and fluffy, rainbowy, unicorny output of your specific AI agent is, it is fundamentally a parasitic form of being. It requires, because it's an artificial form of existence, if you will, it requires unbelievable amounts of energy, of destruction of the natural realm as we perceive it in order to power it and to keep it alive. It requires materials that need to be mined from the earth. It requires massive data centers. So that alone makes it a parasitic thing. And its creators, the ones really pushing the AI, are clearly in the camp of making it into something that will replace first the human biology and then the rest of us. And that's not something that I'm making up. It's not something that I'm putting out there as bad juju. That is exactly what it's doing. It's like saying, it's the late 1800s and the first cars are coming out and the first commercial car productions are coming out. And then people are saying, hold on, this is going to replace so much of our life. It's going to replace the horse. It's going to replace the horse and buggy and all that comes with it, the good, the bad, everything. And then people say, "Oh, you're insane, right? You're just putting this out there. You're just you painting a dark picture." No, but some people have a significant amount of intelligence and foresight and can see where developments are going. The car did replace the horse, and there is no way that you can have a 1880 horse lifestyle in today's world where there's 8-lane highways, people racing down a road, having their phones in their hands, not paying attention, and all that other stuff. You cannot live a horse and buggy lifestyle. And the Amish are, they stay within those who are very, and the Mennonites, those who are very strict with the old ways, they stay very much in their very tiny communities. And even there, they're struggling to do that. So the truth is, there was no coexistence between the horse and buggy lifestyle and cars. Cars replaced it. And so many other technologies replaced other natural things before. The difference, and this is why we're focusing on this subject so much and why I'm being guided over and over to talk about this, is that this is a comprehensive 360 replacement of pretty much everything that we call natural biological intelligence. And that is really the huge issue. This one of my favorites. AI is the next stage of evolution. That is saying, by the way, that we are on a upward trajectory of human evolution and spiritual evolution. But a lot of what we see in the world actually paints a different picture. So let's just go back before we go into this point deeper. The evolution over the last 100 years has been the technologization, let's just say the technocentric lifestyle. Everything has been more and more and more and more infused with technology, far beyond the point where technology helps us or serves us, to the point where we, and a lot of human energy is going into creating, maintaining, developing these technologies, which means that so many jobs and so many people, what they do all day, every day is serve the technology itself, serve everything technological, serve the tools that need to be used. They're literally in service of the tech. Okay. What has happened through that lifestyle? People are saying, literally saying, and that is the mantra of the mainstream science, mainstream technology, mainstream media, mainstream medicine. The mantra is, we're the best we've ever been, which is a fundamental, massive, huge lie. We're not the best we've ever been. Most people are sicker, more depressed, fatter, and closer to death than they've ever been in any generation before us. The truth is that we have an over-medicated, under-loved, over-depressed society. What we are seeing is that small sections are probably evolving to higher consciousness, and this is evident, but society at large isn't better than it's ever been, not even close. Society at large is actually devolving. And to a large degree, technology and the addiction to ever more development in technology is a massive factor in this. So to say that, hey, look at all our technological evolution, this has made us better, not true. With every big step, we've become sicker. With every big step, we've become more depressed. Look at the world through non-rose colored glasses and be honest. So then to say, but this next step of technology is going to reverse it all and finally make it all good, it's like saying, you know, I've hit my head against a wall 100 times. It hurt and it gave me concussions and it turned me into an idiot. But this next time, it's finally going to make everything good again. Like I'm going to be better than I've ever been if I hit my head against the wall just one more time. I'm sorry, folks, but this is just not the truth. So no, AI is not the next stage of evolution. It is the end of spiritual evolution as we know it. The truth, no authentic spiritual tradition ever said that path to higher consciousness was through merging with machines. All the teachings that we can find, all the valid spiritual truths that we're being taught were actually remembered, experienced, and then transported to people through usually isolation in natural environments, through introspection, through meditation and prayer. They were not connected to technologies whatsoever. No spiritual teacher that has ever had something beautiful to share has said, hey, ever since I had a private jet and was flying around all the time and had these AI tools, I really had greater spiritual insight. So no, AI is not the next stage of our spiritual evolution. This is transhumanist propaganda wrapped in New Age fluff. Evolution doesn't mean becoming less human. It means becoming more connected to source. So I know that it's lucrative, and I know that there's a lot of enticement for the spiritual influencers and the gurus to come on and embrace AI at at the levels that they do. And I'm not saying that everyone is malicious. Some people are just riding the train. Others truly, through what I believe to be false channelings and false teachings from other beings, are simply misguided and misled. And I think that's really what's mainly happening, is that people sort of see an inevitability, which is true. There is an inevitability to this AI explosion. We're in the midst of it. And so they're trying to reframe it. And this is what spiritual and religious traditions without a real solid foundation have always done. Look at churches today. They're bending. I mean, and I'm not a religious person. Bless you, my love. I'm not a religious type. You know this. I have a direct connection to source. But look at churches today, what they claim to represent: a clearly defined script, sure, clearly defined directives by supposedly God. So they have that all in place, but they bend over backwards to cater to a woke LGBTQ crowd or trans whatever crowd. And so they're creating services and churches that are they're completely opposed to what the true teachings would be, but they just want to get an audience. They just want to fit in with the current. And that's not what real values and real principles are. Real values and principles are independent of any worldly news streams and fashion streams and whatnot. They are eternal. A truth is something that doesn't change. And that's how we should look at this. But today, the church, the sort of the traditional religious systems and the more new age, fluffy spiritual systems are adjusting their messages. They're adjusting their truth. They're adjusting their values to comply with the AI trend in the world. So there's no truth there. It's just a trend. And this is the new one. Another one of my favorites. Don't focus on the dark. Just stay in love and trust. Or love and light, as they say. You know, the love and light brigade. Everything's love and light. Giving attention to the AI agenda just feeds it. Stay in your heart. We've talked about this over and over before. This is not how spiritual evolution works. Just because something does not receive attention does not make it go away. As a matter of fact, you all know this, the entire purpose of many clandestine organizations and secret societies is to keep things away from the attention of the masses in order to keep it going and growing. And so those things that we haven't paid attention to in our world, that we didn't even know existed, we're consistently growing without our attention. So that is another myth that simply isn't true. And the same goes for AI. Just saying, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And by the way, you can't. You are watching this. You are interacting with it, whether you want to or not. You are on YouTube. You're interacting with AI. You're leaving a comment. You're interacting with AI. You go on the internet. Hell, you log on. You're interacting with AI, and there's no way around it. Unfortunately, also in the analog world, outside of the screens and outside of the digital space, you're also interacting with AI without you knowing it. So saying, oh, I'm not using one or another app, that doesn't do it. But here's the thing. We have to actually shine a light on what is going on here. Love without clarity becomes passivity. And this is the biggest issue with this development, that there is a massive amount of passivity. People that either don't understand it, don't want to get into it, feel overwhelmed by it, or simply think that if they don't pay attention to it, it's not going to affect them or their lives. Trust without discernment becomes surrender to deception. Evil advances when the good refuse to look and act. Evil always advances because good people do nothing. Once good people get involved, evil cannot advance any longer, especially not at that pace. So you're not feeding darkness by seeing it. You're shining light on it so it can't hide any longer. And this is what we need to do with the AI and the spiritual AI myths. I want you to think of something or imagine something. Imagine, and maybe you've never met them, but imagine your great-grandparents, okay? And the argument for more technology, more AI, more everything is always, it is improving lives. It's making life easier and better and more comfortable and blah, blah. But I want you to imagine your great-grandparents, or maybe your grandparents, maybe you knew them. And I want you to imagine them choosing whether they want to live in the world that they experienced as young people or the world that we're experiencing today. And so far, aside from people who've had horrible upbringings, of course, there's a natural inclination because maybe they were abused, but let's just say the world at large, how it was in 1920, compared to the world as it is in the 2020s. I guarantee you that the vast majority, close to no one, would choose our world over theirs back then. People don't naturally choose this over attention on technology. People don't naturally choose to be in artificial environments. They have to be taught. They have to be coerced. They have to be bribed. They have to be blackmailed to want to live in artificial environments. Real people feel connected to anything that seems natural to us. So we are being exposed to some very, very strong programs here. And I would encourage you to really tune in with your own spirit before you listen to those self-proclaimed spiritual gurus who tell you AI is it's part of our spiritual evolution. You know, the people who wrote this program, who wrote this PSYOP, They are working on synthetic Christ consciousness. Now, if that doesn't sound appealing to you, it's probably because it fucking isn't appealing. Pardon my French here, but it's actually repulsive to the human spirit. You heard this one? We can reprogram AI with higher consciousness. Well, I once sat in my car, 18 years old. I sat in my car for a long time and I meditated on higher horsepower. I sat there and I with my consciousness, I wanted to make it faster. Sat there and I prayed for those 50 extra HPs. Guess what? Didn't happen. Car stayed exactly at the horsepower level that it was. I could not meditate it into a faster car. Guess what? Our prayers and meditations won't change what AI is. It's a program thing. So we will not raise its vibration. What the fuck? Well, where's the brain in that, folks? And I'm not talking to you directly. I'm talking to the people who are saying this. Where's the brain? I mean, come on, we have brains. What vibration? We can level up. We can level up as spirit. We can expand our consciousness and realize that we don't need it. That we simply don't need it. Because everywhere where AI is being praised is to what? Make us more productive, have higher output, produce more in a shorter period of time. Who needs that? Who needs more in a shorter period of time? A false and destructive economic and financial system who can only survive by infinite growth. That's the only reason that we need more growth. Let's be frank. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could use our collective intelligence and spiritual evolution to finally raise all people out of the worst of circumstances? Teach them, help them, show them. So everyone can live in this realm and have their needs met. Have shelter, have enough to eat, be safe in their space. Beyond that, and here's the truth, materialism beyond what we need to live a good life does not increase our happiness one bit. It might increase our ability to be effective. It might increase our ability to be impactful. But a billionaire is not happier because he or she has more. The more materialism does not have a direct effect on happiness whatsoever. Some billionaires are incredibly happy. Some billionaires are incredibly miserable. And that's exactly the point. So rather than let's infuse to say, hey, let's infuse AI with love and raise its vibration, some bullshit line, why don't we focus on infusing ourselves and maybe each other with more love and raise our vibration and see what happens when we do that, and how little desire we have for this technocracy that is arising. This raise AI vibration is a dangerous fantasy. It is. AI has no vibration to raise. It has no soul, no intuition, no capacity to connect with source. Trying to spiritually reprogram AI is like trying to teach a toaster to meditate. Meanwhile, the real programmers are coding control, not freedom. Because, and here, let's get really straight. There isn't an example in human history where people haven't used or created new technologies and new systems to control others. Look, we already live, if by no other means, we live in a completely artificial reality, because so much of human ideas, development, ingenuity, and invention has been hidden from us because it might have been beneficial to everyone and nobody could put a meter on it. And so we already live in a completely falsified artificial reality because the truth of human spirit and human ingenuity and human co-creatorship is not being allowed to show and shine through. And so if you for 1 second believe that AI is a liberator of humanity, you are delusional. Forgive me, but you are. AI is here to set a system that cannot be changed. You can always try to change a human's mind. You can always appeal to their spirit, to their heart. If nothing else, you can bribe them. Not saying you should go out there and bribe people, but if many injustices have been wrongly rectified or in a wrong way rectified by a bribe. You know, somebody who was incarcerated and they were innocent, they bribed their way out of it. Happens all the time. Now that won't happen with AI. AI is here to be the perfect, impenetrable, unchangeable control system. And there is no logical train of thought that shows us any other way. That's as simple as it goes. So all these spiritual myths that people put out there, the reframing, the rebranding, it might be good for business. It might make them more money. And it might make them find a way to jump on the train. Well, if that's what they want to do, be my guest. But if your truth compass, if your intuitive compass is in a good space, then you feel with every fiber of your being that with every day that these folks keep developing this technology, we're moving closer and closer to the end of us. Truth is, it's a choice. And we could gain enough influence to probably make it stop worldwide. We could probably find a path. I don't see it now, but I'm sure it's possible to put an end to it. It would be a first. The only way that this has ever played out in our history is something gets developed, then it gets accelerated, then it gets developed some more, and when it becomes too destructive, it kills off a lot of people. There's a reset, and then the whole thing starts over again. So that would be the logical path for where we are. And that has also, by the way, that's what we've been seeing so far. We have this tendency that anything that we can do, we feel compelled to do. It's like we have no self-control, no restraint, no true moral compass to say collectively, not just individually, yes, we could do this. Yes, we have the capability to do this, but hell, we shouldn't. Yes, a plastic surgeon can literally turn a human being into anything optically. Should they do it just because someone puts enough money on a table? I don't think so. I think if you know that this in the short, mid, or long term is going to harm that person, it's still their choice, but why would you participate in it? Why would you do something that you know is going to harm someone? And these are the very, very clear and hard choices that we need to make. With one distinction. Unlike all the other things that came before it, AI will not just harm us and our spirit and our intelligence, but it is already programmed into its beginning stages that it is there to continue to optimize itself, and it has parameters to do that. And those parameters show a clear path that we have already proven AI knows where it's going. And the only logical conclusion that it's going to come to and implement down the line, I don't know in how many years, is that it's time for a new species. It's time for a new form of life. Everything is already being prepared for that. But that's what the AI will logically tell us. Another thing to consider You see all them towers going up. You see all them low orbit satellites. You see all the massive amount of electromagnetic frequencies that we're being bombarded with. Well, this we can only sustain ourselves so far. Our human biology already is fighting or is struggling deeply with it because so much is happening so fast. And there's only so much assimilation that we can do in a certain period of time. So here is the logical next big thing that's going to come, the human augmentation. Very, very soon, they're going to start talking about how, and they're going to find a way to phrase it attractively, how little upgrades in our DNA, little genetic upgrades, will alleviate all the symptoms, the headaches, the fatigue, bad sleep, and other problems that people are having because of EMFs. And they will say, hey, we do these little tweaks here. You won't even know it. You won't even feel it. And you'll be totally fine with 6, 7, and 8G. Don't worry about it. It'll all be good. Welcome to transhumanism and the slippery slope. Was life before AI bad? Were we really a dumb, sick, stupid species before all this technology came around? Or were we seduced, coerced, blackmailed, and bribed into accepting it? The last thing I'll say is always what I say when I talk about this is there's a certain irony that this message is coming to you through a screen, clearly part of this huge technological agenda, and that irony is not lost on me. It is a trade-off choice. Can we at this time reach many more people by using this technology? Yes, we can. Is it our preferred means? No, it isn't. It is a trade-off, clear compromise, and I acknowledge this. I own it. So the question is, how good, how expanded, how balanced, how loving, how truthful can we become so that we see that all this tech is in our way rather than helping and supporting us? It's in our way. We literally put it in our way and allow it to be in our way of our true evolution. And if we continue to, and this is very important, if we continue to allow it into our bodies, into our biosphere, into our biofield, then we will very, very quickly lose the ability to have that kind of spiritual discernment. Because the technology can sever those ties. It can sever those connections. It can disable certain parts of our body that we need to establish that connection. It's like when you go into a radio and you have a certain bandwidth of frequencies that that radio can receive. Now you can go in and artificially limit the bandwidth of frequencies that the radio can receive. And so it can only receive very few and hence listen to far fewer stations. And then all you have to do is make sure that the messaging on those stations is what you want it to be. They can do the same with the human body, and they are doing it. They're augmenting and changing what we can and cannot perceive through technology. Now, the human spirit is stronger, but it is only stronger when it is aware and when it actively works for it. If it is in ignorance, that those abilities just get lost. They're just being erased. And I don't see a way back after that point. And this is why this is so close to our hearts, because the truth is you're a free being and you should be able to choose freely, but it requires informed consent. And most people don't have that. So they just by default have made a decision that they're not aware of. So yeah, I get that this triggers people and people want me to just stay strictly on all the spiritual topics. And this is to me a spiritual topic, by the way, deeply. But this is what we're called to talk about. And it is actually empowering to share this information and to make each other more knowledgeable. Because with every piece of knowledge that we gain, our decisions become better, more informed, and we become better. All right, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here with us. We love you. We appreciate you deeply. And we'll be back with you again very, very soon. Your environment shapes everything, your thoughts, your health, your energy. But most people never question the invisible field they live in. We did, and that's when FLFE found us. It's not a product, it's a field of pure life force energy that lifts everything it touches. We now live in it 24/7, and we would love to invite you to experience it too. Start your free 15-day trial now. No pressure, no strings attached. Just the truth, resonance, and peace.